Welcome once again, everyone. It's Cannabis News. I'm your host, Joe Klare. It's August 2nd, 2019. The show, as always, is presented by the Marijuana Times. You can find us at marijuanatimes.org. You can find this show there if you click the video tab. If you want the audio version of the show, search the Marijuana Times on Apple Podcasts. If you want the swag like this, makecannabisgreatagain.com for that. Today we're talking about hemp laws apparently creating problems, as I sarcastically use air quotes, in Texas and elsewhere. Also, State Senator in Arizona shared a meme from a fake Facebook group. They say it's a fake anti-marijuana meme, but I don't think that's quite true. It's a real meme. It's just the things on it are incorrect. And also, marijuana is going to be on the ballot in a couple small towns in Michigan next week. Talk all about it. But first, of course, Cannabis News is brought to you by Nature's Side, nature-side.com, and they're organic, all natural pesticides. Make sure you grow safe and poison-free. Don't use harmful chemicals on what you are growing. Don't use banned pesticides. Be regulatory compliant. I know that's a lot, but it doesn't have to be. Don't be overwhelmed. Go to Nature's Side, nature-side.com. Proud sponsor of Cannabis News. It's first story by yours truly at marijuanatimes.org. Hemp laws causing less people to be arrested for marijuana. You've probably seen these stories in the press. Most notably, I guess, it's coming out of Texas, but also there's a little bit of it in Florida and elsewhere. Basically, specifically in Texas, the problem is that a lot of prosecutors in Texas are dropping low-level marijuana cases because they don't want to test the marijuana because it's costly. They don't have the budget for it. And if people say, well, this isn't marijuana, this is hemp, then they're afraid they're going to have to drop the case anyway because they're not going to be able to test it and they're not going to have the evidence they need. So what is the point? And apparently this is a really big deal. The Texas Tribune, which I linked to in this article, did a very long piece about all the problems that law enforcement is having because they can't tell the difference between hemp and marijuana. And low-level marijuana offenders aren't being prosecuted. You got my little violin for all the low-level marijuana users that aren't being prosecuted. The poor prosecutors. That's awful. You have to focus on other things. I mean, here's the really interesting part about this story, this Texas Tribune story. It's like I said, it's a very long story, but if you scroll down far enough, you find this paragraph and then the sentence of the next paragraph. Quote, the fiscal note attached to the bill did include non-specific predictions of potential earnings from regulating hemp. The board spokesman also noted that DPS Crime Lab Services got a $50 million boost this legislative session. Those funds, to cover the next 2 years, were given to increase crime lab capacity overall by hiring more than 100 new positions and notably prioritize the testing of backlogged rape kits. None of the additional $50 million was earmarked specifically for marijuana testing. Now, I feel like I have to point out the obvious here, as I do in the article. They say there's none of the $50 million was earmarked specifically for marijuana, but it shouldn't have been, right? It shouldn't have been earmarked for marijuana if there was backlogged rape kits. Shouldn't every single rape kit be analyzed before we spend any money on testing whether something is hemp or marijuana so we can prosecute low-level marijuana offenders? Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Sometimes I feel, I'm sitting here and I'm reading these stories and I feel like maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think I am. You have rape and you have marijuana. One is an often violent, incredibly life-destroying and destructive violation of another human being, and one is a plant. I don't know. I don't think I'm missing anything. I think that they should be testing backlogged rape kits. I think the term backlogged rape kits shouldn't even exist. That means there's ones that aren't being tested. They should all be. There shouldn't be a backlog at all. There should just be a pile. Here's all of the analyzed rape kits. The pile of backlogged rape kits should be empty. That box should be empty. But they're so worried about whether they can't tell that it's marijuana or it's hemp, and it's such a problem. Is it really? Is it really a problem, or is it a problem that there are backlogged rape kits? I don't know. I don't see how these things are in the same ballpark and why we're talking about hemp when all the rape kits haven't been analyzed. We'll talk about hemp later. How about that? How about that? We'll have the marijuana/hemp discussion at a later date. Right now, take that $50 million and start analyzing some rape kits. Jesus Christ. I mean, pardon my French, but, oh. Moving on. This next story is kind of funny, so bring back the mood of the show from the anger it is right now. I mean, I'm not really angry, but it's frustrating. The people in Texas who are supposed to see this don't see this. I don't know. Anyway, next story. This is from azmirror.com. State Senator Leach shares fake anti-marijuana meme. Again, I don't think that's really true. It's a real meme. Like, it's not... It's something somebody made, as you see there if you're watching the video version of the show. It just has things on it that aren't true. It says smoking marijuana has benefits. Nothing, zero, zilch, nada, none, zip, void, null, diddly, scratch. Risks, watch this and listen to this list. Cancer, heart attack, overdose, emphysema, HIV, AIDS, malaria, tuberculosis, influenza, leprosy, and more. And more. It says, still want to try toking it? Well, now that I know it gives you leprosy, I'm less inclined. I'm less inclined to partake of the marijuanas. I certainly don't want tuberculosis or leprosy. I don't want any of those things. Of course, the obvious thing is that none of those things happen from marijuana. Not even overdose. An overdose of marijuana is you go to sleep, and then you wake up the next day. You don't get cancer. You don't have a heart attack. You don't get emphysema from smoking marijuana. You're not going to get AIDS, obviously. Malaria, no. Tuberculosis, no. Influenza, leprosy, no. None of those things will result from toking it. It's a very menacing picture. They have toking in quotes. Toking it. Are you out there toking it? You lepers. Senator Vince Leach, he's a Republican from Tucson, shared a meme Monday afternoon from a parody group, but it appears the senator may not have been in on the joke. That in and of itself is hilarious. Leach shared the photo along with a story by Politico of how legal marijuana is helping the black market, along with the stock photo of marijuana on some money. The Facebook page where the photo came from is called Marijuana Makes You Violent and hasn't posted since late 2016. Oh, that's a shame. We're missing that. The group from which the meme comes says it strives to eradicate marijuana from the entire planet, among other lofty goals. The page never identified itself as a parody page. However, posts claiming 3 out of 5 pot-toking parents eat their children, or that the Flint, Michigan water crisis is caused by bong water, show that this is clearly satire. It's clearly a parody. 3 out of 5 pot-toking parents eat their children. Come on, is this... I don't know. I mean, it's obvious, but it's not obvious to everybody. This is my problem with politicians. One of my many problems with politicians. The fact that people voted for this guy, so he's been given some semblance of authority and this aura of some kind of expertise. He looks at this and is like, leprosy? Yeah, that sounds about right. Post it. Send. Click send. Maybe it was a staff member, but I doubt it. I mean, how many staff members? I mean, do state senators really need staff members to run their social media? I doubt it. Executive Director of the Arizona chapter of the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, Michael Weiser, said it's clearly a parody. If people were to look at this and believe it were true, then they'd get this massive piece of misinformation. I imagine there were some. There's got to be some people that saw it and like, tuberculosis, leprosy. Yeah, I knew it. And now there it is, right there in black and white and green. It's in a meme. It has to be true. Unless it was the Russians. Russian misinformation. Marijuana gives you tuberculosis. Holy crap. This last story from mlive.com. Marijuana will be on the ballot in these 3 Michigan communities on August 6th. Residents of 3 Michigan communities will be deciding at the polls on August 6th whether they want to allow marijuana businesses to open their doors in their communities. The voters in Highland Park, the village of Vanderbilt, and Crystal Lake Township will decide the fate of ballot proposals concerning marijuana facilities, according to the Michigan Secretary of State's office. Michigan's new marijuana legalization law, the adult use legalization law, allows For municipal governments, the ability to decide for themselves whether they want to allow businesses like retail stores and grow operations to set up shop. Excuse me. An overwhelming number of Michigan cities and townships have done so. Nearly 600 communities have bans representing almost 5 million people, according to an MLive analysis. And they have a helpful little map as well. Of course, this story and all stories I talk about on the show is linked in the description of this video. The law also gives residents the ability to challenge the status quo by collecting enough signatures to place the issue on the ballot. The first wave of those citizen-led referendums will be decided next week. So if you live in those three communities, again, back to it, Highland Park, the village of Vanderbilt, and Crystal Lake Township, you'll be having a marijuana vote on August 6th. Make your voice heard, as they say. These are all relatively small towns. And it's kind of a trend you see with legalization. If local municipalities will go ahead and put a ban in place instead of waiting to see what happens, they'll go ahead and just put the ban in place. Then if they like what the state has to say and the regulations and how things are shaking out in other communities, maybe they'll go and revisit the issue. A lot of them will revisit the issue once they start seeing the economic activity that legalization stores and growers and other cannabis businesses are bringing to the communities that allow them, and they'll continue to do so as well. But in the beginning of a lot of these legalization regimes, if you will, there'll be a lot of traveling to find retail shops and such. But over time, supply will increase as more communities want to get in on the action, as it were. Thanks, everybody, for checking us out. Liking, sharing, commenting on the videos. You're awesome for doing that. Go enjoy your weekend. Be safe and all of that. Keep spreading the truth about cannabis with this show. Check us out at marijuanatimes.org. Thank you to NatureSide, nature-side.com, and their organic all-natural pesticides. Thank you all for watching and listening today. We'll see you next week right here on Cannabis News.